It's 6:31, so I think we should kick this off. I know we need to start by noting for the purposes of this remote meeting that as vice chairperson filling in for Matt Manning, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of COVID-19 and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12 pursuant to the executive order of 2020-4, that this body is authorized to meet electronically. And even though there's no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to the meeting, that is authorized by the governor's emergency order. And in accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are utilizing Zoom for this meeting. All members of the board have been able to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through this platform to the extent that they are available. I know that Matt and Vance are not available this evening. And the public has access contemporaneously to listen by clicking or following the website address at www.linwood.org/meetings. And that we previously given notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting, including how to access the meeting using Zoom. Instructions have also been provided on the website of the board at linwood.org/meetings. And I'd just like to note for anyone listening, if there's any issues or any folks are having difficulty, that they can contact Sharon at sholt@linwood.org or Deb at d'Oconnor@linwood.org. That's lin-wood.org. I think that takes care of the sort of preliminary stuff. Judy, is that
Yes.
adequate? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
First item of business is the approval of the minutes of January 13th. Those were included in the packet. Does anyone have any discussion about those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the January 13th, 2021 regular meeting minutes.
Thank you,
I will
Terry.
second that. I'll second.
Or was that Brian? Sorry.
Either way.
Okay.
Either way.
We'll take that from Brian. Any further discussion about the approval of the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying, oh, actually I have to do a roll call, I think, right? So Tammy,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Jasmine,
Aye.
and I am also an aye. So that motion carries. Next is communication. I don't believe that Matt had not noted for me that as the chair, he received any correspondence. I did not receive any either. Did the district office?
No, we did not.
So next up is educational focus, the student assessments. I know that in the packet we received what looked like fairly extensive data regarding the most recent educational assessments. And that Mr. Pribenow is going to speak to those. Is that going to happen? Do we want to do that now?
Yeah, I'm fine if everybody else is.
Okay. I mean, that appears to be what's up next on the agenda, so we might as well go for it.
One of the things, I know that there's people out there watching and stuff, so I was asking if you mind if I share my screen so everybody can, who's out there can.
No, I think that's
I'll do that, yeah.
Okay, I'll do that and then I'll kind of walk through. We'll start at the beginning, right? Oh.
Okay, you should be able to share it, Mark. I just gave you that
Okay,
access.
all right. So what we did is we kind of kept the same format as last year, and kind of looking at, encompassing the whole idea of the SAS testing, NEWA testing, APN, SAT scores. Those are our local assessments that we use, local national assessments that we use. And what happens is hopefully we understand where we are in relationship to other people within the state or the country. Now, you're going to see that wasn't always the case, but we can still look at where we are as a whole and what stands out and what do we look at as instructors and administration as to what we need to do to move forward. So this is basically what you were given last year, the 16, 17, 17, 18, 18, 19, 19, 20. So 19, 20 is the new, right? And as you read these things from left to right diagonally, follow the colors. We do that so we can look at the grade level. So in the upper left-hand corner, you see the math scores for grade 3. And as we follow grade 3 diagonally, this tells us either their growth or stagnancy or decline along the way. And it tells you the numbers as well. And what we're looking at based on Smarter Balance assessment and New Hampshire SAS assessment is that how many kids are we seeing that are at a proficient level or above proficient, which is a 3 or 4 on our testing. So I just want to concentrate on the far right column for a second. Remember, we started doing remote learning in March. This tells us our numbers of kids that are scoring proficient or above. So if we look here, the 25, that's the number of students that we had test. 54 is the number of people that we have at or above grade level. So as we look at these, the thing that's been interesting, and I contacted the SAS department and asked about our comparisons, and we do not have any of those right now. They're not hooked up to state comparisons, so I cannot tell you where we are in terms of the state for this testing cycle of 2019-20. What I can tell you is when we look at our numbers and we see in math, what are we doing well? We got almost half of our kids or more than half of our kids that are proficient or better as we start the elementary school. Remember what we had the last 2-3 years, we started a new program, and we're hoping that that program builds some success in our testing scores and in understanding math concepts. And so this is that 3rd, 4th year. Yes, it was interrupted, and so it's really 2.5-year cycle. So as we move forward, you can see that there's some asterisks involved as well. And down here, what I did is I listed those approaching proficiency, or in that next step which would be a 2, or not necessarily a 1. A 1 is a person who is not necessarily where they're supposed to be, behind in adequacy and not quite making the gains. But the big thing is looking at that 3 and 4, and then coming down here and looking at what are those kids approaching. So it says 24% of those kids are approaching the 3 and 4. And what does that mean? That means they could be 1 point, 2 point, 10 points away from them. Those are what we would call a cusp kid. And so these kids on the cusp, those are the ones we want to target with our instruction, whether it's Title I services, double dosing with extra math services, getting these small groups instructions. It's kind of like what demonstrated success would be doing once they see our SAS modular scores. They'll be looking at those kind of things if we ever go that route, which we are looking into. So we will use them, or use what we have in-house to look at those those cusp kids to say, what can we do to get them to be a little bit more proficient? So I'll let you look at those first 2 pages for a moment, or some of you already have, and you can ask me a few questions regarding that. But again, as we look at grade level across the board from 16, 17 to 19, 20, as we go left to right, some of those things are concerning to me. Some of them are a little less concerning. When we look at grade 4 overall, we're looking at 30%, and all of a sudden it jumps up to 50%. That's telling me that we're getting used to those programs, those research-based programs that we're implementing. So I'm going to let you guys look at pages 1 or 2. Let me know if you have any questions. That would be these 2 graphs. And the same thing with ELA. And one thing that you'll notice is kind of significant is in our 5th grade. This is the 5th grade kids who tested, but it's really our current 6th graders. Because remember, we took that SAS test this fall as opposed to last May. And so what are we looking at? We're looking at some, March through September, October, where there's not as much learning going on, I felt, and kids lose things over the summer. And then we look at that 5th grade itself. There's that asterisk next to that one is, we had 10 kids in there only take that test, 10 students. We had a whole lot of parents opt out of taking that piece, so this doesn't really give us, a great indicator. We can follow that around, but it is kind of consistent. 30%, quarter of those kids, another 30%. So that's the first 2 pages. Any questions on that?
Yeah, Mark, what
Yeah.
do you see for the math? If you can go back to the math,
Yes.
in the right-hand side towards the bottom, the 6th, 7th, and 8th, how do you see those? What are those scores telling you?
Okay, so a lot of inconsistency. So what do I know about our math programs that I've figured out this last year that I've been with the school? We have a lot of inconsistency with math. We do not have a program for middle school. So we have teachers borrowing and stealing from different points of view, different instruction pieces. We're using a program called IXL online to supplement, like for lack of a better word, math teachers speak, is drill and kill, which I don't necessarily think is the best thing that we could be using. It does support those kind of immediate responses kind of things that we know, like 20% of 80, things like that. So it's going to help you get those kind of like what I would call equivalent math to sight words in language arts. So it'll help you with those type of things, but not having a program is where we're suffering. And so if we look at the effects of what's going on in 3 through 5, that program, we have that in math, and it's starting to come to fruition. Our teachers are getting used to it. Our students are getting used to it. The assessments are getting a little bit more targeted towards standards. And so we're able to gauge that. I will tell you that our middle school and high school were allotted funds last year to pick up a math program, and we are actually finalizing that, and the paperwork's in your mailbox, Debbie. So we're finalizing that. They ended up choosing a program that's gonna flow just like the elementary school did, from 6th grade up to integrated 3, which is a 12th grade program. And so when we look at the consistency of that, the teachers getting training in that program, those programs, and how we implement that over the next 3 years, I'm expecting those scores to be a little bit more significant in terms of rising. I think it's important that our teachers have a tool to pull from, and our students have resources. And right now, I think the book and the text that we're looking at and the programs is going to provide those things for us. Did that help out? Did that answer it?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from the board regarding those two? All right, I want to go to the next page then. What I'm looking at is science. What do we know about our science? Not much. What we know is that that data cannot be aggregated together because of the likes of the test. They took essentially what's called the SAS modular tests, which could range from 1 test to 30. And depending upon how many the teachers took, we have no way of relating that and correlating that back to the class. We do have the opportunity to look at it as individuals, which is super time consuming. So I can look at each individual score, but I can't look at necessarily the class score. That's why we don't see anything here. The saving grace is that we know as we move forward in science that the high school is showing great strides in science, and the kids are really buying into it. And to be honest with you, I'm not even sure what the program is that we use for the elementary school for science. I do know that there was a curriculum put together and they are following the next gen standards, but we don't have necessarily a like a packaged program, kind of like we would with language arts or mathematics.
Do those exist?
Honestly, yes, they probably do. But I'm not as well versed in that science one. I'm sorry. I would have to ask a few more questions to our science teachers as to if we have programs that are come out to match the science next gen standards.
Yes, the program that we do have does match the next gen standards. And their program is based on kits, and the different kits will cover different standards within within the realm of the subject. So that does match up, but we still have to look at that.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I'm not talking as much science, especially in the
Right.
elementary grades. I'm not, I need to get more invested in that, I suppose. One thing that I look for as far as being hopeful. And the format on this is a little different than what the school board packet has. School board packet, yours goes vertically on left and right. On the left side, you have math. On the right side, you have ELA. I changed this a little bit, and I wanted to be able to identify some of those, the 5 NBT and things like that for you in case you were wondering. These are Common Core standards, and that what happens is if you look at the G, it's geometry, MD is measurement and data, NBT is numbers and operations in base 10, NF is numbers, operations, fractions, RP is ratios and proportional reasoning. Now you're looking at more middle school stuff. You have the number system, you have expressions and equations, and you have stats and probabilities. I'm gonna look at the math piece first, and then I'll take a look at the ELA piece. What do I like about this? What do I don't like? What I like about this is I noticed that when we look at the green and as it goes to blue later on, when it gets up there in the 75 and 80%, we're looking at people that have met the standards, or we're looking at standards that our teachers are covering and they're meeting. So as I look at math for this year, you can see that we're pretty good in geometry, numbers with fractions, base 10 operations with algebraics, thinking some geometry and stuff like this. And we're getting close. We're getting close in the orange. We're making gains. I don't like the correlation between the two. And again, we can go back to programs. Do we have the right appropriate programs in place? And I'd say in middle school, we don't. What I'm excited about as far as math goes is that, and this data that we get, again, this would be data we'd be going over with the SAS and demonstrating success, what they pull out. This information is given to me directly from the SAS website. What I like about this is I can see where we're doing well. And so in the middle school, I know that we're starting to get better with some stats and probabilities for 7th grade, not so much in 6th grade. Where's the disconnect? We can look at that. Our number sense, our proportional reasonings, our rates and proportions, things like this. In the middle school, I would expect these to build on each other and get higher as they progress through the 8th grade. These proportional reasonings, rates and ratios. What I'm concerned about is this part right here. We're looking at expressions and equations. And again, that's going to build on each other. And so kids are starting to get into that developmental level of moving towards the abstract, right? This is where we introduce the algebra concepts, the variables. So they shouldn't necessarily be off the charts here. That's a developing concept. So it gives us a lot to talk about in groups. It gives us a lot to talk about as far as what we need work on. And then obviously you see the red. That's kind of concerning to me, especially when we note that in 4th grade and 5th grade, we're kind of like in the orange and the green for geometry. Where's our disconnect? Again, I'm looking at programs or understanding standards, teachers understanding them, and what kind of applications we can use. And I'm sorry if I'm taking too long. We are also looking at stats and probability. 6th grade, there's not a lot of that. And so again, there's some sort of disconnect. Moving on towards language arts, we have these standards over here. They're the reading literature, reading informational text, regular reading, you have writing, you have speaking and listening skills, things like that. What stands out? Our teachers do a really good job with kids writing. I mean, look at it, they're all in the blue. Our kids are writing. Our next steps for me, not being an ELA teacher, would be, all right, how do we transfer that knowledge of writing to reading and understanding? And so if we are writing and we're writing coherently, then there's got to be some form of understanding that's taking place. And so what we can do is we can work together to build that reading literature piece, or we can read the informational text. The part that concerns me about this is as we move towards middle school and high school, informational text becomes up to 80% of what we're supposed to be teaching. So we might have teachers that fall back on, man, I really love teaching this book. It's such a great novel. Yeah, it is a great novel. Is it something necessary to what we're doing right now, though? We got to start having those conversations, because as we look at standards and testing in those standards, it's based on informational text. And how can we form a union with our teachers regarding language arts, math, social studies, history, into writing and reading more about these informational text pieces? These are things that we could all be talking about and working on together. So when we start doing our teachers, our staff meetings, and we're talking about problems of practice, which is a building leader initiative, not just me, but teacher leaders, these are things that we could be concentrating on. All right, how can we solidify this informational text process? But our kids are wonderful writers. That's what we're seeing. And I think you see it on things that they do, like speeches that they write and so forth. Any questions on that? All right. Moving forward, this is our local assessment that we have, right? NWEA, yes, it's a national aligned assessment based on Common Core standards, same as SAS, same as what the state tests us with. And when we look at this piece, kind of breaks it down into color coordinated things, looking at who's our high, above high, and average kids. And again, what we were talking about earlier is those cusp kids. Who do we target? You know, we really want to target this piece, these kids right here when it comes to, when it comes to like double dose of instruction, Title I services, getting extra help. We want to really concentrate on this group, that low average piece. And then we want to be able to differentiate and offer a little more rigorous type of work for these high and above high average students. So I'm not gonna waste your time reading all these numbers. You've seen them. Concerning pieces, right? Anytime you see something in the red is concerning. And I could, well, yeah, it's concerning. What do we do with those people? And when we look at that, you know, one person can range anywhere from 6%, 4%, you know, you have 7% or 6% again. So because we have those small numbers. Again, what do we do? What do we look at? What do we see that's working? Overall performance per grade, where are we? There's further data that can break that down into, into actual strands. So like we talked about earlier, number and number sense, or equations and expressions. Teachers can pull from this data and see how to differentiate instruction for other students. And so here we have the reading as well. Do you have any questions on the NWA stuff?
I do, Mark, just quickly.
Yep.
Can you explain what the NWA growth rate is actually measuring?
Okay, I hope I can get this one right. I don't always get it right, so I apologize ahead of time. So basically what we're doing is we're looking at those students that made adequate growth and are testing at a level that puts them either in that high average, low average range. I don't know if I said that right, and I apologize, but it's looking at, so if I look at this page right here, so we have two people that test in the high range, okay? So those people were given a score that was placed in that range, but yet they're still qualified as making enough growth to hit their personal growth rate. And I'm sorry, I'm not doing a good job of explaining that. I have difficulty with that one, I'm sorry, but my understanding is they hit a certain score and they were projected to hit that score. So maybe that's more concise. They hit a certain score, were projected to hit that score, and so their growth rate falls in one of those 5 categories.
Okay, and I mean, it looks to me like those numbers are reasonably promising.
Right.
When
Yeah.
you look at, I don't think there's a single category where we don't have the majority. I think maybe 8th grade math is the only one where we don't have a majority of students with
Yeah.
average, high average, or high growth rate. And so we're
Correct.
seeing academic growth. I mean, that's my interpretation. Is that correct? Are we seeing, for the most part, average, high average, or high academic growth rate amongst the majority of the students?
Right.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Jean.
Okay, so if you have a student, this is where we would break this down, and we would see the individual students at whatever level they're at. The grade kind of doesn't make a difference here. It's wherever they're at their instructional level, and
Right.
then where they need to go in order to make, in order to close that gap, that learning gap. So that's what that's measuring. So if a student in 4th grade is performing at a 2nd grade level, then at the end of the year, he performs at a beginning 4th grade level. If you look at the other scores, he's not going to show good progress in the other type of scores. But in these types of scores, he is going to show the progress because he went 1.5 years in 1 year. So that shows that gap is going to change for that particular child. That's the goal. We're trying to get them to progress more than just 1 year each year to close that gap.
And so that is taking into account each individual student's
Exactly.
level and where they start and where they end up. Okay.
Yes.
And so
These scores are more important. These right here, because this really tells a good story.
yeah, and teachers are able to access that on a deeper level as well. So they can go down to each individual student and pull up precisely where are these students on the learning continuum, and they can generate materials to help supplement their instruction for those kids. I'm not saying that happens all the time, but it's something that we need to look into doing and really like ask our teachers to go ahead and do that. Because a lot of times we get focused on, here's my curriculum, I got to get through it. Well, do you? How about, here's your curriculum, this is where your kid's at, how can we move the kids forward? That's kind of needs to be our mentality as well. Any further questions on this one? All right. Then we move into an AP summary of summary scores. So when we look at this photograph, and I'm going to break it down into like the 3 bars, you have the darker blue, the orangish color, reddish color, and then the lighter blue. So the 21 represents the total number of students we had in our school who signed up for an AP class. 41 represents the actual number of exams we gave. So that means we could have multiple students taking multiple classes, right? So essentially I have 21 kids in AP courses, but yet 41 exams. Do the math, divide, that means each kid's roughly taking 2 AP courses, whoever signed up. The 14 represents each individual who, out of the 21, who has scored a 3 or better. So of the 21 kids, we know that 2/3 of them scored at least a 3 on one of the assessments that they took. Not all of them, at least one of them. This is the part there's a little discrepancy. This is promising, 14 to 21. That's a pretty good rate, right? 67%. What would be difficult for me to process as I look at it from you is like, well, okay, well, we gave out 41 tests though, and we only see 14 3s. But we could have had like one of these individuals score a 3 on one test and a 4 on another. So this was just the number of tests that we took in our school, which tells me that when kids take an AP course, they want to take more than one, which is good because it's challenging for them. Any questions on this? I do like the idea that we're looking like our enrollment in AP courses is up. So that tells me that we're building a more rigorous academic standard within our school where kids want to be challenged. That's an upside for me. And then we kind of look at our scores overall on that average. this is the part, as I look at it, we have to say, well, how many kids are actually in that course? How many, what are our scores like? Yes, we want to offer the challenge, but should we be focusing our resources somewhere else? That's what this page is. Any questions thus far? Okay, and then we look at our SAT data historically, 18 through 20. You've seen 18, 19, we've gone over that. If we look over this year, how does that work? We know there's 24 kids took the test. 25% of them met both benchmarks. 33% met, 33% of the test takers met both benchmarks, 1/3. So 58% of them met the English writing, reading standards, and 43% met the math. The percent of takers to meet no benchmarks is 1/3. If we look at the state marks, didn't fare as well if we do that comparative data as we did the previous years. However, if we look at our range of scores and take a look at the 38 and the 50, about 88% of us scored in this range, and this range over here is more or less average range for average test takers throughout the country. And for some reason, I could not get any comparative data for that. I'm still working on that part. I can talk with Mr. Quinn a little bit more, but I could not find that comparative data this year. It was not shipped with us with the information that we have, so we're looking at it. Any questions on SAT scores? All right, and finally, this was included in the packet of last year, and I know there's been some talk about looking at some of the comparatives that New Hampshire has on its platform or iProgress platform. But you got to remember, that's 18, 19 data. They're behind. They're behind. We don't know exactly what those are. Those comparatives aren't current. And so we went over this last year. This was included as well. It just kind of tells us where we are with the state average. But again, looking at where we are in our English language arts and math for the elementary school, I would suspect this is going to change. And as I looked at our numbers, I would suspect it would go up a little bit as well. So that's that. To me, it's a little. It was included in last year's packet, but I left it in there because people have been talking about that proficiency data, and I wanted to remind them that that's 2 years ago. So, same. So that's kind of what we have. If there's something else you would like to see, if you have questions, please feel free, and we can work with you to give you some answers.
Can I just make a general statement? I'm really awful with statistics, so I'm just, out of everything that I just saw, a red flag to me says middle school is struggling a little bit. I don't really need any answers or anything. I just wanted to know if that's true in your mind too. Is middle school struggling, and are we going to address it?
We are addressing it, Mr. Bossi. We are addressing it by putting in place programs, starting with the math program. And so, yes, I've noticed what you've noticed. But I also noticed that I have really hardworking teachers and students that are willing to put in the work and want to improve. So we're going to put in programs starting with the math and then looking at the ELA piece. I think we have good things to go off of with the writing. We have teachers that are willing to work together in our on our staff days to work with our teams, willing to work together. And I think if they can show that passion for instructional writing, that technical writing, so to speak, that I was talking about, as they do with regular writing, I think we're going to make gains. We just have to come together and figure out what are we going to do to make those gains? How are we going to make those gains? And I think we have a group of teachers, when I look at the high school and middle school, as far as the ELA standards go, they're passionate about writing. Now we need to be passionate about technical writing. They're passionate about novels. And so where are we being assessed? We're being assessed further and further on that technical piece. And so we know they love novels, and novels are wonderful. We all read them, we all enjoy them. But unfortunately, we're not, the emphasis of testing is not necessarily on the novel work. I'm not saying we do away with it, because it's important in our lives, and it's important to continue those things, but we need to find a better balance of writing about informational text as we do with novels.
Thanks. I didn't really mean a specific answer so much as I'm just trying to interpret, is that what I am seeing? And are you on top of it? By the sounds of it, you are. I have all the confidence in the world in our teachers. That wasn't even remotely what I was saying. I just wanted to make sure that you recognize that we're going to get these programs in place. And that was basically it.
Yep. You know, and I know that it's been difficult to be able to do that with our situation. It really has, but we are going to get there.
Yeah, I just see there's a substantial difference. It seems like both sides of middle school, elementary, high school are kind of grasping, and there's just that disconnect there. As long as you're on top of it, thank you very much. And thank you to the teachers too, because I know there's going to be a little bit of a struggle there, figuring out what we need and everything, but I'm confident we'll come out of it.
Okay, if there's nothing else with regards to, no other questions regarding the assessments, we will move on to the business administrator's report. Deb?
Hi. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot right now. Again, just a reminder to come in to sign the manifest when you can. Every week we put those out there, and we'll be talking more about the budget in a little bit.
Okay, thank you. Then Superintendent?
We did have a 6 o'clock facilities committee meeting, and Brian will catch you up on that in the committee component of the agenda. And Mark did that thing. I just wanted to go over some of you do have some dates coming up. The following dates for meetings, hearings, and information. You have January 27th through February 5th. Is any declaration of candidacy, if anyone is interested out there. February 3rd is the bond hearing. That will be at 6 o'clock. Your February 10th is your budget hearing. And March 16th is your annual district meeting. Those are the 3 meeting dates. Wayne Fillion will be attending the bond hearing on February 3rd. So he will be going over the bond as he did last year and go over all the details of that bond. And Brian will be going over the bigger picture of where this bond started and how long ago, how many years the board has been working on this. So we'll work on that. The air handlers are being looked at by the engineers from the mechanical services, and more tests will be done prior to the board meeting. They have come in a few times, and they will be coming back. We're still waiting for another visit from them.
Is this the
Action items, but those can follow under the agenda.
okay? Then Mark, I don't know if you had any other things that you needed to talk about, or if you had sort of covered everything, but
Can I mention a couple of things?
yeah, absolutely.
Real quick is we want to say thank you to the employees at the dollar store and the community members who have contributed to purchasing our teachers some thank you balloons. And we have them here at the school, and they've been asking community members to kind of pitch in to say thank you for the teachers for all the hard work and dedication that they're putting through here. And I also thank them, and dollar store employees and public. It was very uplifting, and we thank you for that. The other piece I want to look at is I met with like our Yalta team, a group of students today, and they're requesting to have a speaker come in regarding civil rights, knowing that in February is African American History Month, and they're wanting to bring somebody in. So we're in the communications with them, and we're filtering potential speakers. And I'm really proud of those guys. Those kids that were in there, they had some really thoughtful, engaging questions, and they're thinkers, and they're very aware and conscious of their surroundings and their community and global thinkers. And so I'm really impressed with that group. And I just wanted to say that, you know, we're looking at bringing in a person, and as we get more information, we'll let everybody else know. That's all I got.
Thank you, Mark. Committee reports. It looks like we've got budget committee minutes that are in the packet to review. I don't know that we need to discuss those at all. Risk management had a meeting.
Yeah, and I couldn't attend. Deb, you attended that meeting, yes?
Yes, yeah, that was back in December.
Oh.
And we looked at policy, because there was a new policy that had come out. We did do a little bit of a walkthrough just with some areas of concern and just really focused on the purpose and scope of that committee.
Deb, is this committee, how often does this committee meet?
They're required to meet quarterly, 4 times during the year.
Okay, so nothing new though. Then I think we may have even talked about the risk management having met at another meeting. So I know policy committee met last week, and there's some stuff on for first reading. And Brian is going to give us an update with regard to the facilities committee and some of the suggestions that he has for the warrant articles. And there seems to be some question about what we're going to do going forward with some of those warrant articles. So maybe it makes sense now to we'll go over the policy committee stuff first, and then we can sort of go into the warrant article stuff with Brian during that portion. You think that makes sense, Judy?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. So I was not available for the last policy meeting. I think Jasmine and Joe handled that. So if one of them wants to sort of discuss what's the items that are on for first reading, or if anybody has specific questions, maybe that's the way to do it.
I think it was just me. I think it was just myself. Or Joe, did you end up coming into the meeting?
Yes, I was there. I didn't have any of this stuff in front of me, so
Yeah.
and we were basically going to pass it along to everybody so everybody could get their opinions on it.
Right. It was, from what I remember, and we may have summarized it at our last meeting, right after that policy meeting. But from what I remember, and Judy, maybe you can help me. It was most of the changes came from the state, or they were new policies. So we're omitting some because we have replacements. And right, because it was just us, we decided to put them on to first reading. Was that right, Judy?
Yes.
That's
Some of the policies were new to the district.
Mm-hmm.
So we just took the New Hampshire School Boards Association policies and put them on for first reading. Some of them, there were a few that needed to be revised. We took the recommendations from the New Hampshire School Board and placed them in with your policy. So there were a few like that. And you also had some that, again, New Hampshire School Boards Association is trying to slim down that booklet of policies. So each time we're seeing policies that are actually being withdrawn, recommended being withdrawn from the booklet. And you do have 3 that was recommended by the New Hampshire School Boards Association to withdraw. Those policies are already covered in other policies. They make sure that that we all have the coverage in the other policies before they withdraw them. So those are all set to be
they're
withdrawn.
redundant through that whole book, so they just want to cut them out.
Correct. And so that's why they're at the first reading, and you know, they're ready for second reading.
So it looks to me like a lot of the policies are basically just we're adopting the recommendations of the School Board Association.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. And the School Board Association is making those recommendations in an effort to keep up with changing statutes.
Exactly. The laws, they come in every summer, and it's a rat race trying to catch up with all of them. We're still catching up, but we're getting there.
Okay, I guess if nobody has any further questions about the policies that are currently on, or any commentary about the policies that are currently on for first reading, I'd accept a motion to move those to second reading.
I'll make a motion, Jay, to move. Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
JLCJ, JCA, JLF, GBCD, EBB, GBCE, EBBB, BHE, EB, and also the ones to be withdrawn of JEC, JLI, and ADD move to second reading.
I'll second.
Okay, and I think I don't know that we need to move the ones to be withdrawn to second reading.
No, you don't.
And I think like last time when we had this issue come up, that it probably makes sense to wait until we've approved the new policies to withdraw the old, because some of them do sort of correspond, particularly like the change of school or assignment in best interest and hardship. It may make sense to wait to withdraw those until we've approved the.
Correct.
I'll second with those changes then.
Okay.
Should we just move them along though, so that they still stay in list with that as far as our paperwork and keeping them in line? And then once we move these ones out and approve them, those will still be listed underneath them. And at that time, it'll just be the reminder to pull those out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that they've been doing that for us anyway.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
So I think the motion and the second would be just to approve the listed items from first reading to second reading, hold off on withdrawing the three policies. Any further discussion on that? Okay, Tammy,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
Jasmine,
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so the motion carries. Those will be moved to second reading. As far as business requiring board action, staff nominations, recommendations, or resignations, Judy?
No, I do not have any.
Okay, and so the only other issue here is the memorandum of agreement with the Support Staff Association.
Correct.
And we all received that in the board packet. Is there any questions or anything that any issues anyone has with that?
I just want to remind the board that those were, they do follow your district's plan, the COVID plan. And so and it was agreed upon that as the COVID plan changed, that would correlate with go along with these individual agreements, just like the teachers.
Am I wrong? In my reading of it, it seems similar to the teachers'
It is.
agreement as well.
It
Okay.
really is. Yeah.
I'd accept a motion to approve the memorandum of agreement with the Support Staff Association.
Make a motion.
Okay, moved by Jasmine,
I'll second.
second by Joe. Any further discussion on that memorandum? Okay, I'll take a vote. Tammy,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
Jasmine,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
and I'm an aye, so the motion carries. So that gets us to the warrant articles in the budget. And I think, Brian, this would be a good time because at least two of the warrant articles that we're dealing with this evening and that didn't get covered last meeting have to do with the facilities issues with the roof and the floors. And so it sounded like there were some options that we basically need to make a decision on this evening. So if you want to, I think it makes sense at this point for you to give us the breakdown of the discussions with regards to those items.
Okay, give me 1 second. I'm just pulling some stuff up. So we met today. We just touched on a few things. We didn't go into much. We just wanted to touch on things that are going to be affecting us currently. And Judy kind of covered a few of them, the mechanical service company, running testing. Just touching on that, I also requested that, once we get through the, voting season, it'd be nice to maybe have this mechanical service company just come and just, even if it's via Zoom, just to explain what they did, so to give some understanding to the general public on them, what they do in the process of testing, where do we stand with our equipment, and so on and so forth. And they don't think that that'll be an issue at all. Mark seems to feel that that they're more than willing to do that. It'll just put some backing to what we're having going on with the testing of the mechanical systems. Then just gonna jump around and then get right to this bond part. But the piping project, Mark gave me an update. He's just waiting on a little bit more info. 3 companies have responded, and then we'll proceed with the project. And the state has been kept in the loop, so everything is going good with that project. He's also waiting on some window bids for the spring, and that money's already been allocated anyway, and that would be to work on some of the windows in the science wing. And then I just asked him, kind of going forward, where we stand with the window project that's been going on, and it looks like there's probably 2 more phases remaining that'll be broken off over the next couple of years to get all those windows swapped out and up to date. As Judy mentioned, on the 3rd, Wayne will be there. He's going to meet with us via Zoom at 6. He'll go over his part of the project, and then I am with Deb. We're just going to put together the overall chronology, and I'll once again go through that and see how we ended up where we are. As far as the bonds now go, there was some discussion, and I'm in agreement, and just if everybody else is, to potentially hold off on the floor for this year. And that is, trying to find that article actually.
Yeah, we sent you all of that information earlier today.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at it. I just
Article 10. You looking at Article 10, Brian?
Yeah, that's what I was just trying to find it. Everything's on a small screen, and I'm trying to read them all together. Yeah, so in terms of that project, the flooring project, it was discussed to possibly hold off, if everybody's in agreement, on the flooring for this season. And in turn, just as we had discussed in the past, completing the roofing project. The estimate for the roofing project has come in. Mark gave it to me today, and they couldn't get to all the spots just because of the snow on the roof and so on and so forth. But they estimated at about 14,000 square feet. And a cost of 154,000. So based on talking with Deb, that's about what we've been spending on the floor and the roof go each year. Mixed, 60 here, 75 there. So instead of running both projects for this year, just hold off on the flooring project for the year, go forward, finish the roof, and then the roof is done. And then just a brief history on that. We've been working on that project for about 9 years now. And they come with like a roughly, and each one might be a little bit different over the projects, but about a 20-year warranty on all. So, we're really not looking at any issues or anything coming up for another 10 years in regards to the roof. And my feeling is if you finish a roof before you do a floor, it makes sense anyway. So get the roof out of the way and be done with it at the 154. So just run that one article with the adjusted price. According to Mark, the remaining problems he's had with roofs will all be covered in that repair process anyway. So that currently he's dealing with 3 leaks that will all be no longer once this roofing phase is done, and hopefully not looking forward to any more roofing for about 10 years, start revisiting the project. If everybody's in agreement with that, then I'd like to see us just remove Article 10 and just going with the Article 11 at the new rate of 154,000.
Do we have any other roofing needs, the elementary school, the garage? Anything like that that's gonna have to be added in next year or the year after?
To my knowledge, no, we should be good with roofs.
Yeah, elementary school was done, what, 8 years ago, 9 years ago, completely done.
Correct. The garage.
2010, 11 was the elementary.
And that was a membrane with a 25-year warranty, if I remember correctly. Is that right?
Yeah, they were
Elementary?
all between that 20 to 25, and I think there was even one offered at like 30, so it depended on which product you got, but 20 years, 25 years is a safe number, and then Deb would have to just check on each contract to see which ones were used.
Well, I would agree with taking the flooring out this year and just doing the rest of that roof. It makes sense.
I certainly agree that the roofing is more of a priority. I also know that the main office, guidance office, special education offices are the areas that we're looking to do the floor in, which are less high traffic areas than the typical hallways and multi-purpose rooms and things of that nature. So, I think I'm in agreement with that suggestion of finishing the roof and focusing on that as a priority.
And listening in, that is just a budget number. It will be bid out before the job is done. Is that correct, Brian?
Once it gets approved at the meeting and can start the bidding process, Mark just has used the same companies. This one as Melanson Company, and and that's why, based on our discussion, we think it might actually be less square footage, but they couldn't verify some of the transition points because of the snow on the roof and stuff. So 14,000 square feet was, in my understanding, the safe number, let's say, for the
Yes,
project.
I actually understood all that. I just wanted the public, I wanted you to get that out in the public. So
Okay.
that they
No,
understand. Thank you.
yeah, so we should be good. Comfortable number at 154. My feeling too, alongside this, is that maybe it allows us next year to expand the flooring project a little bit. Keeping it in that same number range and getting that project done sooner than it was expected as well. Trying to see if I had any more other notes. I don't.
Okay, so I think maybe it makes sense to take up the issue right now of we did not already approve the warrant Article 10. So, I guess if we just don't approve that, it doesn't make it onto the warrant. Is that, I guess, the best way to address that, or? Okay, and so,
Right.
I guess it sounds like that most folks are in favor of warrant article, which currently warrant Article 11, reflecting 154,000, representing the sum total completion of the roofing project. And so I'd entertain a motion to approve the warrant article to read, to see if the district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $154,000 for the replacement of the Lin-Wood High School roof area. The special warrant article, this is a special warrant article per RSA 32:3, Roman numeral 6D, and RSA 37:7, Roman numeral 5.
Will you insert in there where it is and that this is expected to be the final?
Yeah, so if you can just insert, Deb, where we had crossed out, it
Yeah.
would be the middle school wing to all of you guys, and approximately at 14,000 square feet.
Yep.
And with that in there, I will make that motion.
I'll second it.
Do we have any further discussion on that motion? Okay, we'll take a vote. Tammy?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Jasmine?
Hi.
Joe?
All right,
I am an aye as well. That motion carries and the warrant article is approved. The other warrant article that I think that we need to address, the last warrant article that we need to address. Actually, sorry, there's a couple. The first, I guess we'll start first with the creation of the special education capital reserve fund. And it's the recommendation, it looks like it's the recommendation of the school's attorney that we convert our existing special education trust fund into a special education capital reserve fund. It makes it a little bit easier for the district to use that money as it needs it, without a public hearing. And I know there's some difficulties with public hearings surrounding the privacy issues that are attendant to using monies for specific students and specific services. So it sounds like that's the recommendation. I know that we've had some discussions at the board level about establishing capital reserve funds generally for certain things like roofing projects and some of these sort of longer term maintenance issues. This seems to be the one that is the most pressing. So currently, the suggestion is that we establish, or I think if you look in it wasn't in the board packet, but it was in an email that went out today from Deb. The suggested language establishing the capital reserve fund for students with disabilities, or the special education capital reserve fund, and then eliminating the special education expendable trust fund. I presume, Deb, that we are going to, at some point, we're going to fill in those numbers. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what the technicalities are with regards to us approving the language of it without knowing what those numbers are. Do we need to have those numbers?
Okay. So I also sent you another draft copy of the warrant articles.
Okay.
So I took what the attorney gave us and put some numbers to it.
Okay, I guess I didn't see that one. Where?
And maybe I can share the screen.
Okay, that might be
I
helpful.
can figure this out. I don't know how.
Bring up that second email.
I have the one with the numbers to discontinue the expendable trust. That has.
Yeah. Well, the other, okay. Yes, that's what I sent out today.
The one previous one for
I
create.
didn't put a number in because I wanted you guys to discuss that. So when you establish a new fund, you do have to put a sum certain in there.
Mhm.
Typically, you guys had been taking 10,000 from the prior year surplus and putting it in, but this is just to establish it. I mean, you can put $1,000 in there just to, but it wouldn't come from surplus. So to establish, you got to start, and then the second step is to transfer the old balance into this. But so I didn't want to put a number in there because I wanted you guys to discuss it. I didn't know if you want, because again, it won't be coming from surplus like it normally does, just to start this fund.
So if we establish it with article, which will now be 11, and then add at the end where we're putting the percentages in. If we establish it in article 11 and then say between articles 14 and 15, vote to raise 10% to go into that same.
I mean, you can do that, but you do have to, when you establish it, you do have to put money into it right in that article.
Right. So should
So
we
that's
do?
why you can put a minimum of, I don't know if $1.
Right off the bat and then not do an additional.
Right, and that's why I didn't include that.
So, okay.
So would we just have to rewrite the wording for next year? Because this is establishing it, and then after that, it would be like putting it in as the 10%.
Yes.
And then, just so I'm clear, we move the 184 over to it once that gets voted?
Yeah,
Is
that's
that-
what the article after that is.
Yeah, okay.
And basically what we have to do is you have to
Have a place to put it?
close it, you close it to to the general fund, and then you turn around and take it from the general fund back into that new fund that they've established.
What is typically the 10% amount that you've been putting in?
Into the special ed fund has been 10,000.
And did 10,000 go in this year into that 184?
Yeah, that's part of that.
So would it just make sense to then, like Deb's saying, maybe just put it for the sum of $1,000 put into that, and then that just puts us at 185 when we open it, if once the things pass?
No, because normally we would put 10,000 in on top of the 184 and have 190. So
Well,
I
that's
think,
why I was curious as if she had already done the 10,000 in that
From last year.
184.
so I think
From
we should
last year.
establish it with that 10,000 and delete the redundancy of another article.
I think
Okay,
the only
that's-
problem with that, Tammy, though, is it sounds like that normally we take that 10,000 from the unexpended fund balance. And if we do it the way that you're suggesting, that it wouldn't come from the unexpended fund balance, it would be part.
Oh,
That would
gotcha.
have a tax
We
impact.
have to have that redundant article. So we could do 1,000 to establish this and then do 9,000 in another article.
If
Okay.
you want to keep with the 10.
Yeah, I understand.
So we would have 3 articles regarding this. We'd have one establishing it. We'd have another one closing out the capital reserve, or sorry, the trust fund, and allocating the money essentially by way of depositing it in the general fund and then reallocating it. And then a third one to put in the money that we would typically put into the trust fund. Is that how you would suggest we do it, Debbie?
You want to keep with the $10,000.
Yeah, I mean,
Have the-
it is, that's what we normally do, right? And I mean, I guess that do you think that we should? I mean, you're the one with the sort of dollars and cents about it, but is that something that you believe that we should continue to do, is contribute the $10,000 to that?
The purpose of that fund is if we have, again, if we had an extraordinary special education expense come, say we have a new student move into the district, or we have an out of district placement that we don't have in our budget, because that's really what it would pretty much eat up that fund as it is right now. So we're trying to keep a balance in there if that situation arises, and we have had to use it before.
Right.
So, but it doesn't happen very often. So it's really the comfort level of what's the amount that we should, do we want to keep maintaining that balance?
But Deb, does it have to be a third warrant article? Like we have one of the first one that you had said, we'll vote to establish a capital reserve fund. And then the next one is to discontinue the expendable trust fund. Now, do we have to have another one saying we increase by $10,000 capital in the special education capital reserve fund? Or can we use the first warrant article that will stay there?
We can do it that way, but the problem is that would directly impact this year's tax rate, where when we're taking it out of surplus or the unexpended fund balance from the prior year, it's not technically affecting the tax rate because we've already appropriated that money last year.
And what about just amending Article 13, which we haven't approved yet, it doesn't look like, to read essentially to raise and appropriate the sum of $184,000 to be added from the special education capital reserve fund, and then additionally raise place the percentage up to $10,000 from the unassigned fund balance. Can we just add
I
that?
don't think you can have two numbers in the same warrant article.
Okay, so it sounds like we need a third warrant article.
Yeah.
We want to continue to add that money. And that's easy enough, just sort of another warrant article in the same vein as Articles 14, 15, and 16 regarding unassigned fund balances.
And I think you can easily, I think the attorney said, you could easily explain this whole process. You're really just transferring money and you're trying to keep with what you've been doing in the past years as far as maintaining that amount going in.
I think it sounds more confusing than it actually is. So then I guess what I would do is would entertain a motion to approve. I I guess what would become, I guess the numbers, I'm not really sure, but to see if the district will vote to authorize the school board, I'm sorry, wrong one here. See if the district will vote to establish a capital reserve fund on the provisions of RSA 35-1-B for the purpose of meeting the expenses of students with disabilities, said fund to be known as the Special Education Capital Reserve Fund, and to raise and appropriate the sum of, I guess, $1 to be placed in the fund, and to further name the school board agent as agents to expend this fund. And I say $1 because you said we need to put some money in it, but it doesn't have to be.
We can put $1 in. We'll find out, but I think that's probably the best way to go.
Okay. So I guess I'll take a motion to approve that as I just read it.
I'll make a mo-
Okay, Joe.
Oh, go ahead, Brian.
I just had one quick question though. Is that number, Deb, of 184, that like while we're doing all these changes, is that a fund that we should adjust to put in the future to be adding more money into, or is that a safe number with the cost of education and if we had an issue?
I mean, I feel
We've been
pretty-
doing the same amount
Yeah.
for a long
No.
time, and I mean, if we're making these changes, is that still a safe bet of a number to sit around the 10%, $10,000?
Yeah, I think we've heard from our special ed director, and she's talked about out of district placements that can be $150,000, $200,000 when you add in all the expenses. We are able, to get special education or catastrophic aid on some of these, but it's a revenue reimbursement the following year. So we would have to expend that money either out of our budget or out of the trust fund if it occurred. But I think it's a pretty
I think it is too.
decent
Okay.
number in there.
I just
But
thought
it-
if there was a change to be made, now would be the time to do it, and I just wanted to verify that we're in a good place with that amount of money. And
But
other than that,
Am I clear, Deb? Right now, the motion on the table is just to establish the fund.
Just to establish the capital reserve fund.
Okay,
For now.
thank you. I second. I'm just curious if that's what we were doing.
So I think the motion was made by Joe, or was the motion made by,
I moved the motion,
Okay.
Joe seconded.
okay, Tammy makes the motion, Joe seconds. Any further discussion on the motion establishing or approving the warrant article that would establish the Special Education Capital Reserve Fund and place $1 in it? Tammy? Oh, sorry.
Oh, you want to vote on that?
Yeah, I thought you were about to say something. Okay, no further discussion, then we'll take a vote. Tammy?
Aye.
Joe?
All right,
Ryan?
I
Jasmine?
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so that warrant is approved. The next warrant to take up is the warrant regarding the discontinuation of the Special Education Expendable Trust Fund, obviously. And it looks like the number we are going to include there is the 184,000. Is that right, Deb?
Yeah, because that's what we're guessing right now. I mean, it would be at the end of the year with whatever accumulated interest in the account.
Okay.
So
And
that's,
in this language seems to essentially accommodate for some variations in that. So I guess the motion reads to see if the school district will vote to discontinue the Special Education Expendable Trust Fund created in, what year would that be?
March,
wait, 11, 13.
Is that the,
Did I put that in?
March 1998.
Yeah, in March 1998, yes.
okay, March 1998. Sorry here. Said funds in the approximate amount of $184,000 as of, are we putting the date of?
30th, 2021.
Okay. With the accumulated interest to date of withdrawal are to be transferred to the school district's general fund, and further to raise and appropriate the sum of $184,000 to be added to the Special Education Capital Reserve Fund previously established, with this sum to come from the June 30th fund balance available for transfer on July 1st. No amount to be raised from additional taxation.
So moved.
Moved by Tammy,
Second.
second by Joe, or Brian, sorry. Is there any further discussion on the approval of that article? And we will take a vote. Tammy?
Aye.
Jasmine?
Aye. Sorry, my dog ripped my headphones out of my ears.
Brian
Aye.
and Joe,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well, so that warrant article is approved. And then the last warrant article, I guess, is one that we need to create regarding.
Before that one, do you want to discuss the putting 10% of up to $10,000 in?
Yeah, that's what I was about to discuss.
Oh, I thought you were going to go on to the last two that are on here.
No, sorry, I was just going to discuss the sort of creating an
Perfect. Perfect.
article. Basically, Deb, we can use essentially the exact same language as Article 15 with the replacement of vehicle expendable trust fund with special education
Capital Reserve Fund. Yep.
Okay, so is it okay if we just do that orally?
Yeah, and we'll
So
update that.
the proposed article would be to see if the district will vote to raise and appropriate 10% up to the amount of $10,000 to be placed in the Special Education Capital Reserve Fund, with said funds to come from the January 30th, 2021 unassigned fund balance available for transfer on July 1st, 2021. I'll entertain a motion to approve that language for that new article.
So moved.
Moved by Tammy,
Second.
second by Joe. Thank you. Any further discussion on that article? Okay, we will take a vote. Tammy,
Aye.
Jasmine,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
and I'm also an aye, so that motion carries. That new article is approved. Okay, so the last remaining issue with regards to the warrant articles is regarding sort of the extensive discussions that we've had surrounding the easements that were supposed to have been conveyed to the town of Lincoln, and then the one regarding Ms. Haradine's property and her request for a driveway easement to access her back lot from the town's easement. In the letter that we received regarding those proposed articles, it sounds as if we should at least initially, or the sort of the order of that should be the approval of Ms. Haradine's easement and then the approval of the town's easement. Is that everyone else's understanding?
That doesn't make sense to me, though. If
Yeah,
the
the order, we did ask the attorney that because in writing, he put it one way. I mean, he showed the articles one way and then, but said that one should be addressed. The way we have it, we put the town's easement on there first, like he has originally written that. But I think my understanding, and Judy clarified this because we talked to him yesterday about it, is when it actually happens, I mean, if these are approved, once they're approved, then the order in which we follow through is what he's saying. I mean, it doesn't really matter the order that these are on here, on the warrant.
Okay, so it matters in the way, the order in which the school board acts on those. Is that correct? So it looks like we're essentially asking the town for permission for the school board to convey easements, and what matters is the order in which the school board chooses to issue those easements.
And I would think that since the town has already constructed the turnaround, it is there. It's been there for many years, many years. I would think that that one should go first.
And that's why we put it on there first.
Yeah, it just makes sense.
Yeah.
I think, Tammy, that is an issue that for discussion at the time when we decide to go through with those, to take action on those warrant articles, because it's not, the town is just approving us being able to act on those. And then I suppose we can have the conversation about technicalities of that and whether we're going to give the town an easement subject to her easement or her an easement subject to the town's easement. I think is absolutely a point that needs to be discussed by the board. I think that's probably something that we would discuss sort of at the time of issuing those easements. So that makes sense. Is there any, so the current language reads of Article 18 to see if the district will vote to authorize the school board to convey an easement to the town of Lincoln over a small portion, approximately 11,049 square feet of the Lincoln Woodstock Cooperative School District property for the town to use as an emergency turnaround at the end of Pleasant Street. On such terms and conditions as the school board determines are in the best interest of the district. The town constructed a hammerhead in 2000 and do we know that yet?
I need to find that out.
Okay.
I just forgot to look it up, but yeah,
We have it.
we have it in a file here. But Tammy, you might have it quicker. I forgot to pull that back out.
My only question, I guess, with respect to setting aside for the time being the date, the remaining language reads, but the original authorization and executed easement to the property cannot be located. Is that accurate? I thought the issue was that it was never recorded in the registry of deeds.
That's correct. There is no executed document, so there's no executed document can be located.
Okay. All right. If that's I guess if that's I thought that we had sort of executed documents, but they were never
There was a document, there was a deed created, but it was never signed by either party, and it was never recorded.
Okay.
Yeah, the authorization was all through the town's minutes and the school board minutes. We could find all that, but the actual execution of the final paperwork we can't find.
Okay, I guess I'm comfortable with that language at this point then. I would entertain a motion to accept warrant article number 18 as proposed.
I'll make that motion and we will insert the correct date.
Yes, thank you, Tammy.
I'll second.
Motion by Tammy, second by Brian. Is there any further discussion on Article 18? Okay, we'll take a vote. Tammy?
Aye.
Jasmine?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
And I am also an aye, so that motion carries. Moving on to Article number 19. Shall the district vote to authorize the school board to convey a driveway easement to Denise Harradine or her assigns for a driveway to be connected from her property over a small portion of the district's property to connect to a hammerhead turnaround already constructed by the town of Lincoln on the district property at the end of Pleasant Street, on all on such terms and conditions as the school board determines are in the best interests of the district. I'll take a motion to approve Article 19 proposed.
So moved.
Okay. Sorry, was that Tammy? Yeah.
Second.
Second by Joe. Is there any further discussion regarding Article 19? Okay, we'll take a vote on Article 19. Tammy?
Aye.
Jasmine?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
And I'm also an aye. So that proves that the motion carries and Article 19 is approved as proposed.
Just wanted to say one thing, Jay, that the articles were sent to the town administrator as well. So he's familiar with the articles.
The 18 and 19, you said?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so I believe that takes care of board approval of all of the warrants.
There is one more
There is
that
one.
I had sent, because if you had the copy that I sent today, besides renumbering all these now,
Yeah.
which we'll have to make a few adjustments, there's an article we inserted after Article 8, and Article 8 is the LWEA contract.
Yes.
And the article we inserted after that article, which may or may not be Article 9, Article 9 says, shall the district, if Article 8 is defeated, authorize the Lincoln Woodstock Cooperative School Board to call one special meeting at its option to address Article 8 cost items only. The reason why we put that in is, number one, it was suggested by our attorney and also by Department of Revenue. And it's something that they have been suggesting for school district to do when they have a CBA article on. So you don't have, because otherwise you have to petition the court for a special meeting. So it just saves time if something were to happen and it did not get passed. So they are suggesting And they've been doing this the last couple of years, or started suggesting that schools put that in. Again, just a time saver. And only would be acted on if Article 8 does not pass.
Okay, and that's to address, if the whole package is not approved by the voters, to address the specific cost items individually
Yeah, we'd
Yeah,
have
so
to
they could go back and do the negotiations and then have another meeting and not have to call a special meeting to get that approved.
Okay. So the Article 9, as it's currently numbered, reads, shall the district, if Article 8 is defeated, authorize the Lincoln Woodstock Cooperative School Board to call one special meeting at its option to address Article 8 cost items only. And that's majority vote. I'm assuming that it would just be a simple majority vote to approve this article. Is that what
And
they're?
it would only be called if Article 8 was defeated.
Right. Okay. I would entertain a motion to approve Article 9 as proposed.
I'll make a motion.
I'll
Moved by Joe, second by Tammy. Thank you. Is there any further discussion with regards to Article 9? No? Okay, I'll take a vote. Tammy?
Aye.
Jasmine?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
And I'm also aye, so that motion carries and Article 9 is approved. So I think that's it now. We are good with warrant articles. Is that right?
Yeah, so I think the next time we will revisit these is at the budget hearing. These will all be addressed, and then following the budget hearing, you have a regular school board meeting, and if there's any changes at that point, you will make them then, and then that would be your final warrant that we'll post.
Okay, sounds good. I think at this point we can move on to additional continuing business, town annual meeting, school district meeting. I know there was some notes in Judy's information about scheduling dates and things like that. And there's been some talk of whether or not we're going to be able to hold some of those items in person or whether or not those are going to happen remotely.
Yes, we have checked with the other North Country school districts, and they are having all of their meetings, open meetings, face to face. So we were going to try to recommend going in that direction. Our first one, though, will be the February 3rd one, which is next week. That will be remote, virtual meeting. But as far as your school district, your budget hearing, your school district meeting, and the town was requesting if they could have theirs the week before, as they usually do in the school. That is not a school day. March 9th is not a school day. The students do not go to school. The town has their voting that day, and they use the school for that. And they also typically use the gymnasium for their school district meetings. And they were requesting if they could do that again this year.
So the only question I have is,
Also discussed if the school is not comfortable with the daytime voting where we go in and everything's set up in the multipurpose room and whatnot. If the school is not comfortable with that, we can conduct that part of town meeting at town hall. We just don't have the space to safely keep a social distance at the open meeting at night. And would really need the gym to be able to space chairs far enough apart so that we have appropriate social distancing for the nighttime part of the meeting. If the school was not comfortable with townspeople coming in and out of the building during the day for the ballot voting. Just putting that out there.
for the night portions of all the meetings, there has to be some kind of limit on people that can go in. I know that the town meetings don't draw as many, but the school district meeting has filled the room before. And so at what point do you say, do we close the doors, or is it going to have to be both things going on, or is remote? I feel like there's more people in that room than there is attending a basketball game during the district meeting. we fill the whole floor with chairs.
The school district meeting is typically held in the elementary multipurpose room. And the school district would be using the gymnasium at the high school this time around
Yeah,
due to the size. The gymnasium holds 700, but obviously you wouldn't have 700 in there for the distancing purposes. You typically run around 150 people come to your district meeting. So you could fit 150 in a 750 person.
okay. As long as there's comfort there.
And you couldn't turn people away if you decide that, we can comfortably seat 140 people. You can't shut the doors. If you're having an open district meeting, every voter that wants to come must be allowed in. So you have to take that into account.
My concern, I guess, with regards to both the town meeting happening at the school and the district meeting happening at the school is we are in a far worse position currently than we ever were during the time of these meetings last year. At the time of the meetings last year, we didn't have a single active case in either town. And we had, I don't know that we even had a case at all, never mind an active case. We currently have, I think today's numbers are 15 active cases in Woodstock and another 8 or so in Lincoln. Those numbers have been fluctuating up and down day by day, but we're in the teens. We've been in the teens for active cases for a while now, right around since I guess the beginning of the year in both towns. So I certainly appreciate the desire to have open public meetings with that I think that they're productive. I think that the folks in town appreciate the opportunity to be heard. I'm just obviously, I think, we had a situation last year where we decided that we weren't in a position that we could have them. And we're in a much worse position currently, and we're deciding that we can have them. And I don't know that that there's a good reason why there's a good justification for that, why we're making that decision now. And, in looking at what we did last year and how that all played out. So certainly, I think that maybe this year there could be issues that are more hotly debated, but we need to be considering the propriety at this point of putting hundreds of people into a closed space, masked or not, has the potential of being a problematic with regards to the spread of COVID. And I don't think that we want to be in a situation where our school district meeting or our town meeting it becomes a super spreader event. So I would just, whatever decision is made, I would certainly, who's making the decision, I guess, is that up to the board? Because I think we need to think long and hard about that, given where we are now as opposed to where we were last year. That's my 2 cents on that.
Well, I think that you could certainly wait a little while because you have, this is January, the end of January, and you have the month of February to go still. So you do have time, and we could see where the numbers fall.
Sharon, do you have the dates that you have to have the warrant has to be posted and you have to have the ballot? What is that date? Do you know off the top of your head?
We're running everything off of our meeting date, but let's see, that right here. So again, we had to plan something. So we running everything off our original meeting date of March 16th. Our warrant, and that's why the bond hearing and the budget hearing and all those things have fallen into place. I think it's no later than March 1st. Our warrant has to be posted for that March 16th date. Now, like last year, and we actually have our moderator attending the meeting here, but when it gets closer to that date, I think you can extend, we'll have to figure it out. Obviously, we're going to have in-person or virtual, but we also have that 2-week period that the moderator can push out our meeting every 2 weeks until we get to, if we get to that point like we did last year. I mean, if we want to try to have,
So the month of February, we have meetings the 10th and the 24th, correct?
school board meeting,
Correct.
I think just the 10th.
Just the
Just
time.
Not the 24th.
No, because I think that's the vacation week. So we don't normally have one then.
Gotcha. So we would have to decide, the board would have to decide at the next school board meeting, February 10th. So that there'd be time to post, because we won't be meeting again prior to March 1st, when things would need to be posted. So we have 2 weeks to think about it and decide.
Well, again, I think everything's posted off of that original date, and if, as far as posting the actual meeting, Tammy, because when we get to that date, we can't hold it. We can roll it out every 2 weeks like we did last year.
Robert can, the moderator can.
Yeah, the moderator can.
And the board can decide whether we want an in-person meeting or a virtual meeting, and but ultimately it's up to the moderator. However, knowing Robert, he will go along with what we decide.
Yeah.
It is ultimately the moderator's decision. But I mean, we all know Robert, he'll go with whatever we suggest and he'll make it work.
Yeah.
Well, we may decide yes tonight, and then a month from now, there could be no cases, or there could be 150 cases. I mean, I really don't think there's any way to accurately determine that. So, I mean, it's kind of either we do or we don't, but.
But we can make the decision on the 10th, and if we get to where, the day of district meeting, Robert can push it 2 weeks at a time if it's not safe to hold an in-person meeting. Or the conditions aren't good for a virtual meeting either. I mean, if we have to do parking lot voting again in the middle of March and we're having a snowstorm, that's not going to work. With the ones of us that have to stand outside and hand out ballots and collect them in a snowstorm is not going to be fun. So either way, no matter what we decide, whether it's a virtual district meeting or an in-person district meeting, it may get pushed either way.
When does the town of Lincoln have to post their date, Tammy? Because they're the ones that are asking us for permission. So
Correct. Ours must be posted. I'm just looking through my calendar here. Give me a second. Our budget hearing and bond hearing is Thursday, the 4th. We will have to post by, I'm guessing, February 23rd-ish, a week prior to the school.
Yeah.
So we'll have to make a decision on the 10th at our next school board meeting, either way, what we're going to do.
I just think it's a tough one because as of right now, you can't go watch your own kid play basketball and no one's allowed in the school. And then we want to make a decision to invite every single person into the school. So it like goes against kind of what we've been doing to keep the school under cover. And so it's like opening the floodgates to the school where we haven't had anybody in there. And if that's the case, then let's go back to letting the fans go watch basketball and we're making it open for everybody. We don't even let 15 people in there at a time.
But you
I'm
could,
just confused about why opening the doors at this point, like Jay said, when there was so much fear last year, and last year life was going on, and now there's all the talk about all these problems that are happening, and we've been protecting the kids in the schools to the best of our ability, and then we're just going to open the doors because a bunch of people don't want to wait in their cars, or they don't want to have the same issues that they had last year. That's just my feeling.
we do have a lot more information concerning COVID this year than we had last year. Last year, it was, in my opinion, fear-based because nobody had any clue what was going on, which is different. We did one thing last year, we're doing a different thing this year. It's comparing apples and oranges, in my opinion. And it's not opening the doors to everybody in the school. If, as far as the town goes, if they do their voting at town hall, it's only the gym and it's only that evening. And we have cleaning protocols for that. There are foggers, there are whatever. And the school could make the town reimburse the school for whatever cleaning charges there are. As far as the school goes, that's a
Tammy,
different.
even as Robert even said last year, Robert Weatherall just said Governor Sununu had a mandate that we could not do it last year too.
Right. Oh, that's true. That's very true. And as far as the schools voting, that's a different story. That one you would have to allow voters from both towns in to mark their ballots during the ballot voting time. And then, you know, the evening session could be done, I believe, safely in the gym. It's, again, my opinion. And I think with masking and social distancing, the gym is a big enough space and it could be fogged and cleaned after that, prior to any children or staff coming back into the building. Again, my 2 cents, and it's not something we have to decide on tonight.
No, and I was just going to suggest that maybe we hold off on the remaining discussion with regards to this issue until we have a little bit more information. We have at least until the 10th before we make that decision. We can always make a decision on the 10th, and we can amend that decision, or we can change that decision. We can, like I said, we can post on the 1st of March. That doesn't mean we have that meeting on the 16th. But the warrant will be posted, and we can have that meeting whenever Robert feels it's appropriate to do so, whether we decide to have that in person or not. And
Can we put that
we
on?
can wait until summertime and have it outside. But you know, I also, and I just want to put this out there. I think that, you know, based on some of the discussions that have been happening at the budget committee regarding their assessment of the budget, that there may be some considerable debate about the budget this year, and you know, I think that it's starting to look like there may be, you know, certainly the necessity of the townspeople weighing in on that. And last year, the protocol that we had did not allow for folks to make amendments to warrant articles or any other business that came before the board or the district meeting. And so, yeah, I think that for now, as long as everyone's okay with it, we'll hold off on any further discussion with regards to that. We can retake this issue, and I guess we can put it on continuing business for next meeting, if that's okay, Judy. And
And
then,
can we invite Robert in?
He's,
to the
yeah,
meeting? I know,
right
but,
now, he's
you
here.
know, on the
Oh.
10th, when we
Oh.
continue the discussion, if he can join us, but let him in so he can chime in as well.
Yeah, because he's here. We could let him in right now. But one other thing, if you want to let him in, we can let him in. We do have one immediate thing though, because our budget hearing is the 10th. We have to post that a week prior, which is February 3rd. So we need to know what we're doing for that. Are we doing that in person? We typically have, usually the budget hearing consists of the school board, the budget committee, and a handful of people from the public. So you don't usually have a big crowd. Do you want to do that in person? Again, that's February 10th, maybe in the high school NPR, or do that one virtually.
I mean, if we're going to have it in person, I think I would suggest having it in the biggest room that we have.
Or the gym. Actually, we did find out that the gym it's not in use that day. We've kind of blocked it off just in case right now.
The projected numbers for the budget committee, for the budget hearing, I think are low enough that we can safely, I mean, in my opinion, I guess this is not opinion of the board generally, that we can safely manage that in the gymnasium if we have to. And again, I think given some of the discussions that have come out of the budget committee this year, I think there may be some folks that want to have input into the budget process through that meeting. So I don't think it would be wise of us to have a meeting where public input was limited. So my thoughts on that is we try to have that in person, obviously with all of the requirements of masking and distancing to the extent that we can. Is there anyone else have any thoughts on that?
I think that makes sense. Sound reasoning.
100% agree.
Okay.
Total agree.
Do we need a vote on that then, or Judy? No. Okay.
Oh, I don't know if you need a vote, but
I guess. I mean, it doesn't sound like we have anyone that does not agree anyway. So then we can post that as an in-person meeting.
we'll just continue as
As we usually
normal. Yeah.
Okay, so I think let's see here. COVID-19, I think we covered some of that in Judy and Mark's updates. But is there anything else, Judy, that we need to know about how things are going with regards to the COVID?
No, everything's moving smoothly and, we're moving forward and doing everything we need to do.
Okay, we appreciate your continued efforts in that regard. Doesn't look like we have any students. Is there, Ms. Steves, do you have anything from the staff?
No, there was nothing submitted for me to share, so.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
And then public, how do we facilitate public comment?
Before we go to public, I just want to update you guys. I did participate in the New Hampshire School Boards Association Delegate Assembly. It was a riveting 3 hours on Saturday, just want to say.
Anything about HB 20?
There was no, actually. There was, you all have got, I'm assuming you all have the proposed resolutions from the NHSBA. Nothing surprised me. Everything went with what the NHSBA was supporting or not supporting. However, at the end, they did recognize two resolutions that weren't on here. One of them was they wanted some of the members wanted the NHSBA to this year get involved with supporting moving teachers up to the phase 1B priority for vaccinations in New Hampshire. So I believe they're going to do that. It wasn't anything they could take a big vote on because it wasn't published prior, so they couldn't vote on it. However, they seemed very receptive to doing that, which I thought was a very good thing. There was really nothing else. I mean, I've got some notes, but there's nothing riveting. Just wanted to pass that on along to you all. There was nothing done out of the ordinary. There was no surprises. It went exactly as I expected it to go. It was hard sitting here looking at the sunshine out the window for 3 hours.
We appreciate you taking the time to represent us at that forum.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Tammy. So Judy, I'm not sure how we've been facilitating public comment. Is that, if we have anyone that wishes to make public comment, maybe they can, how do they?
They can raise their hand. I think there's a raise your hand function, and then we can move them in and they can talk.
Okay, I guess if any of the folks that are in attendance wish to make public comment at this point, you can note by using the raise hand function, and we will allow you to comment.
Or they can throw something in the chat too if they can't figure out the raise the hand. But
I don't see any activity.
Before we close, Jay, I have one question for the board. So,
Yep, absolutely. I think, Joe, I mean, we're about to, as long as there's no reason for the board to go into non-public, which I don't believe there is, and then we were going to entertain a motion to adjourn. So I think now's the time, Joe.
yeah, just real quick, just one question out of the budget committee that I told them that I would bring to the board, because I was hoping to ask that question to Mark. Do we have the capability in our school to, I guess, recognize genius kids, stuff like that, not just gifted, but genius? Is there any programs out there for these kids? Evidently, one of our kids got left behind at one point. I'm not going to say any names, no nothing. From the budget committee's point of view, they were looking at possibly putting more money in, I guess was my interpretation, to put some type of a program, a questionnaire or whatever, if we don't have anything already there. I don't know what's there. I don't expect anybody to answer that now. I just told them that I would bring that to the board and maybe we could get an answer on it down the road.
Maybe that makes sense for Judy and Mark to put together, sort of what the
Exactly.
programs we have for advanced students. And that way we have a sort of a more complete answer to that. And Judy, I I know that you've been doing a lot with regards to providing information to the budget committee in response to the various requests they've made. And so I think if you could do that and maybe just copy the board members on that as well. So,
Yeah, this wasn't an answer back to the budget committee itself. This was more in general, me asking if we had anything out there for that. That's all.
yeah, and yeah, I guess I'm not sure what the answer to that is, Joe, but I guess we can get
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I didn't expect an answer tonight, Jay. No
Okay.
worries.
All right, thank you, Joe. If that's everything, then I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Tammy. Do a second? Okay,
Second.
let's take a vote. Tammy,
Aye.
Jasmine,
Aye.
Ryan,
Aye.
Joe,
All right.
and Jay is an aye as well. Thank you all for coming this evening. That will conclude our meeting.
Stay healthy, everybody.
You too.
Bye-bye now.
Good night.